Hello, we are looking today at this little knife here. This is the Mini Lawman by Cold Steel, the Mini Lawman. So I've got the American Lawman. It's one of my favorites, probably my favorite, my actual favorite, just honest, working knife, no frills. It's a good one. Doesn't do too many things wrong at all. It does a couple of things wrong, but nothing fatal, and just a good honest purchase for a good honest price of $150 in Australia, I think about $80 in America. You get some great steel, you get a great handle, just simple action, supreme strength, really, really good knife. So this is the mini version of it. And what I'm going to talk to you today about is what I like about it and what I don't like about it. But first, let's start off with some specs. And then let's do some size comparisons. They always help me much more than specs in my mind when I'm forming an opinion. So let's look at it next to something we all know, a standard Swiss Army knife. There we go. So you see there, it's a very similar size to a standard Swiss Army knife. A little bit more in the handle, but the blades are about the same length really. The cutting edges certainly are. There you go. Let's look at the next one, Open L number 9. There we are. It's a bigger, also great lightweight pocket knife there. Let's look at it next to some more exotic knives like the Zero Tolerance 0220, way back there. Much less knife than that one. Let's look at it next to the Alma Falcon, another great light EDC using knife. Let's look at it next to the Spyderco Police. Might have to even zoom out for this bad boy. Oh yeah, it's huge. Spyderco Police 4 in K390. And let's get that Lawman back on. Just have a final size up with the Lawman there. There we go. So yeah, there you go. It's a pygmy, that's for sure. It's a very small knife indeed. It's the little tiny baby brother of the American Lawman. Look at all these police related knives on the table. Makes me proud. Makes me proud. Now, so what I like about this knife, well, I like a lot of things about it that Cold Steel have been doing with a lot of their knives lately. So since 2015, Cold Steel have implemented the CTS XHP as largely their standard pocket knife steel, which is a crazy good move. So unlike some companies which are still languishing in HCR 13 and AUS 8, which was what Cold Steel was doing, they bumped up their entire line and increased the price modestly, not crazily, but modestly. And then they've now got this steel that cuts for a lot longer than their previous standard bearer, the AUS 8A. They still use that steel on their fixed blade knives and on some of their knives, but really for their main series of G10 handled pocket knives, CTS XHP, even on the huge things like the Expada XL, huge slab of XHP, very, very cool. So they've gone and put that XHP into a pretty decent blade. It's got a very similar shape to the Lawman, so they've gone that same sort of very simple drop point, sort of very almost trailing, barely trailing up to a point above the midline of the knife even, almost the spine height really. It's getting there anyway. So they've gone in the same blade shape, but then they've ground it quite well into a pretty decent hollow as well. So let's have a look at that hollow grind. It is a hollow on this one. It's hollow enough that you can see the just a light sort of curve in there. Not a huge amount, but it's definitely slightly hollow. The Lawman as well, I'd say the Lawman feels like more of a flat, but it's very, very much for muchness. Anyway, my point is that it is thinly ground and it is a thin slicer. So it's good in that it's not, whilst it's a thickish blade, not super thick, but it's a stouter blade that cuts really, really thinly. So looking at next to like a Swiss Army knife blade, it's a little bit thicker than that overall, but it cuts, about as well, I'd suggest. So they've done a good, nice, fine, thin behind the edge grind, which makes it a good cutter. So really, really cool. So once this knife is in the substance, it's going to be going through it really, really easily. So of course, I'll be rolling in some cutted demo footage right now. So in terms of other materials, the G10 is good. It's the good cold steel G10 in my opinion. Modestly rough and not crazy rough like the Recon series. And yeah, it just does the job that G10 does of being a light yet strong material. They haven't put liners on here, so whilst the lockback assembly adds a little bit of extra weight, not a huge amount, there's no extra sort of steel inside there to make it heavier, which I'm generally pretty happy with. I'm not going to be sticking this knife into things and pulling this way or anything like that. The stuff that having liners really makes an essential part of a knife for if you're doing that kind of work. So just a light use EDC knife. Really no problems at all, and even if you are putting into some heavy use, it's still got some reinforcement with this big slab of steel along the back here forming the triad lock system, which is the next good point. You're never going to say a triad lock is a bad point really of a knife. It's a back lock, a bit like this police here, but it's stronger because you can fail with this police, and I could probably fail it right now if I wanted to by spine whacking it. Not an approved technique for sure, but it can happen. So because really all this is there's a single catch on the end of this steel bar that hooks over slightly, grabs the back of the blade tang. It's hard to show because this one's all quite sealed away, but this tang has like a little notch in it that the bar slides into. Triad locks have the back of the tangs slots in next to this pin here, and then the lock here sits over that pin, so the pin has to fail, and it's stuffed in there between that G10, so the pin has to fail before anything else fails. So it's a very, very strong design, and it's good. Some people love it, some people are a bit I don't like pushing as deeply, but even this one here, it's a bit spongier than some triad looking knives, like this American Lawman really. They're not the funnest knives to unlock. They're not miserable, you don't have a bad time, you don't write like a sad letter to your friends about the time you had to unlock it or anything like that, but it's often they're not as fun or not as responsive or something. You can't quite flick it open. You'll find that lots of triad locks you can't just really fire open. You can with some wrist, but yeah, it's a smaller knife as well, so the blade's lighter. So in terms of it's just a good honest lock, it's not nothing fancy, none of this sort of business where the kids are all trying to flick their knives open and all that sort of stuff. We don't need that on these honest, hard working knives. These knives just lock. They just lock, and that's all they need to do. So there you go. No problems at all with the triad lock. It's a good thing. I like how they've also gone and got this pocket clip, so you've just got the one pocket clip, which seemed to make sense to every other knife maker, apart from cold steel until recently. Often you get two clips, one for this side and one for this side, providing perhaps marginally better carry that really could have just been emulated by having it go straight. Because really the two contact points are here and here, just drawing a straight line between the two of them rather than a curved line. I don't know. Never quite saw why they did that. So they've gone and done that in this one, so I guess that's better as well. So those are the good things about it. It's a really well-made knife. It's well put together using good materials. It's lightweight because of the lineless G10, which is still tough enough. The blade has a great steel and is ground fairly well, and it is a nice, just modest shape. With a swedge on the top for a little bit of extra pizzazz, I guess. The triad lock is well done, and it's got a good pocket clip that is reversible without needing to stick the extra clip on, so you can take the same one off. So the pocket clip itself is well made, and it fixes nicely to the pans. It's not too tough to get on and off. Sometimes pockets suffer to cold steel just a little bit. So those are the good things about the knife. Oh, and it's also pretty well priced, like competitively priced. About $120 here in Australia, which is a lot, but CTS XHP, probably about $70 in America, I think. All right, let's go with what I don't like about the knife. First of all, I'm gonna have to talk about this tang area here. This one is really, really wide where the tang meets the handle. So say this American Lawman's pretty bad as well, but it doesn't even feel as bad as the mini Lawman. It feels like there's even more space with the mini Lawman. So I just like when the knives do this, when there's a tiniest little gap here in the place, but nothing can actually really get in there. I like when knives do that, where it's just more of a complete unbroken surface all the way around. Stuff just gets caught in here, and with a triad lock, all it does take is a little bit of like scrunched up, broken off bit of receipt from your pocket, and it can actually make the knife not lock open as well. So there's actually a reason why they should be really concealing that as best as they can, but they don't often do it, so maybe it's just really hard to engineer that. So I'm not sure, but yeah, I definitely have to bring that up because it's one of the things I'll always mention it, because if other knives can do it, I don't know why they can't. If there is a good reason, please let me know. But just one little thing. Another thing is it's not a particularly deep carrying knife. I would much rather have seen no lanyard hole, because this knife doesn't really strike me as the type for decorative lanyard folks. And I think either have no clip and just have it as a lanyard bottom of the pocket knife. I guess you could still do that. Or have a clip and no lanyard and back the clip all the way up to here, making it much deeper carry. Because a fair bit, as I'll show you in my pocket shots, a fair bit sticks out of the pocket when you wear this knife. It's like more than a much bigger knife even. Like my ZT-0220 sticks out less than this knife here. So just a bit of a funny choice there. It's good that the clip's just singular reversible, but yeah, the placement of it is a bit strange, I must say. Now the main thing about this knife that I just can't deal with is, and it's a big thing and it makes the knife not a particular favorite of mine, is all these scallops. These scallops limit the use of the knife to people with certain sized hands. And I am not a part of that group, I'm afraid to say. My fingers are too big for it. Like they sit uncomfortably in the scallops. They're too wide and fat or chunky or muscular maybe. I don't know, but they're just not, it's not a comfortable fit. Each scallop pinches the finger just slightly around the side. So what can you do about that? It's a bit of a fatal flaw for people with the bigger hands. It's not a comfortable knife in hand, which is a bit of a bummer. So I don't know, it's a bit like having a shoe, I guess. Anyone's foot fits a thong, or fits, we call sandals thongs in Australia. Sorry. So any shoe fits a sandal. Yeah, it's not going to be the most ultra hugging, you're not going to be able to run a marathon in it, but for day-to-day wear around, any shoe will fit a sandal. So say this is like a sandal, this one here. Very simple. Any hand will fit it. Yeah, it's not going to be super locked into every hand to, as in like infiltrating the gaps between everyone's fingers and making it completely unbreakable bonds between hand and knife, but much safer than going like this, which really does make it almost a tailored fit to making sure your fingers are just the right size for those grooves, especially when you're piling them up like that together. The forward finger choil is a great idea, and I guess I should have put that as one of the good things. It's good to have forward finger choils, I think. Nice use of the space, but the rest of it, even with choked up here, it's just not lining up with my fingers. So what can I do about that? Sweet FA is what I can do about that. That is the knife. That is it for me. Relegated to light use only sort of thing. So yeah. I don't know why they couldn't just have it as a straight handle there. They could even have put another Kilion on the back, parrot's beak, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I know they've gone lock it in tactical, but geez, you wouldn't be using this as a stabbing knife, surely not. So yeah, I know there's pistol retention drills and stuff that, law enforcement officers can do in an extracurricular sense if they want to go that extra step of, CQC, Metal Gear Solid, gun and knife, and yeah, it's going to be a really good grip for that sort of stuff. And it's frankly in the reverse grip it actually feels a little bit better, but it's still not comfortable, I wouldn't say. Like it's still, my hand is happy when it's out of my hand and when it's in my hand, and I guess that's all I need to say really. So that's a bummer. That's a bit of a bummer there. So. And that's really the main thing that stops me from really recommending this to anyone like I recommend the Lawman to anyone. Because the Lawman, I'm pretty sure, unless you've got really small hands, you might find these distances here a bit far to span. Then I think the Lawman's going to fit anyone. This one, medium-sized hands or smaller. This one, sort of any hand I would suggest. The only people who shouldn't also buy a Lawman are people who don't like ducks. Because I don't care what you say, That's a duck. Quack, quack. Can't unsee that. So yeah, look, the Mini Lawman is a well-made little knife. It's a good idea to make smaller versions of knives. And you know, I guess in a sense, it's nice not to just shrink down things. That's the problem I always found with the Rat 2. It's just a shrunk down Rat 1, and they haven't really given much thought to how it kind of all lays in the average larger hand. Large hands can hold small knives just fine. This is a pretty small knife, and my large hand can hold it because it keeps it simple. So yeah, it's just one of those things. It's really well made and the materials are good and the price is good, and you know, there's a lot good about it. It's just doesn't fit me. So there you go. Anyway guys, I hope you've learnt from this review, enjoyed this review. But yeah, it's still worth a purchase if your hands are smaller and you don't want something huge. It's a strong little knife that's going to do some hard work for you, as long as the boot fits, or in this case, the knife. So yeah.